It's the best time of year for a draft-only franchise, which is off-season time, our third opportunity to build out the core of this football team. And let's hop right into things here. But before we get into the draft, which is where we will be improving, let's go ahead and preview this free agent class. And for this part, I will hide my face cam here so you can see a little bit better. This was probably the worst free agency class I have ever seen in my life. 83 overall is the highest overall player. And we're talking all guys 30 plus until you get to Tyler Algier is the best guy under 30 years old in this entire free agent class. So there's not much going down at the top of the league in this draft. I'll just say that. And so none of our division rivals lost anyone major. Neither did they pick up anyone major, which is good. There's only, 15 or so players that we saw over 80 overall. We're getting moved in the entirety of the league. And so, not a big, league-wide shifting of a landscape kind of free agency period. But with that out of the way, now let's go ahead and start to talk about the draft and some of my thoughts as I, just like I did last year, have a step-by-step game plan that I've written down. I know exactly what I want to do with this draft. I have plan A's, I have plan B's, because things never really work out the way you want. But before we head into it, I do want to get the extra bit of scouting here. We get I had, of course, our 3 focus players. And we'll now know a little bit more about them, but just want to show you a little bit of trend. One of my favorite players in this class is Ramon Gaffney, who earlier on in the process was getting drafted kind of in that late teen area. And he was somebody that I thought would have been an excellent trade down candidate. He is now a guaranteed top 5 talent after this focus scouting period. I thought he had a really good chance to be that. He's 21 years old. He is an elite athlete with elite strength, great speed, and elite acceleration. And he has pretty much B's across the board. Now, of course, you see that one big fat F that's just staring you right in the face. I know. And a comment in our draft preview said that this guy would be looking a whole lot better if not for that. And so I agree. F injury is not good, but you can get a guaranteed top 5 player with the ability to stop the run, the ability to rush the passer. And as I was kind of taking a look at the team after the season, and I was going through position by position in our last episode, kind of talking about who I liked, who I thought we could improve on, I really think our defense is one interior pass rusher at that, away from truly being a dominant team defensively. I mean, maybe not next year dominantly, but having the pieces to be a dominant defense in the future. And I thought Ramon Gaffney was that guy, and I thought we could trade down because at this point, in the draft, we were projected at the top, but next mock draft, 13, next mock draft, 12, next mock draft, 11. He has, ever since mock draft 2, steadily been increasing. It looks like the rest of the league, much like I did, I have identified him as a top talent in this draft class. So the fact that he has continued to rise, combined with the fact that we now pick at 8th, whereas heading into week 16, we were tied for the best odds to pick number 1 in the draft. All of a sudden, Ramon Gaffney doesn't look like much of a trade down target after all. We could trade down a spot or 2, but how much are you really recouping from that? And with Ramon Gaffney continuing to increase, and whoever we trade out with 8 is probably not picking Stackhouse, so he could be liable to go at 9 or 10. Instead, or maybe even 8. Maybe the team that trades up to 8 with us actually takes Gaffney. And so This is a tough situation. I thought I had our first kind of move in the bag, but as the offseason's gone along, it looks a lot less kind of assured that that's the move, because guys are going earlier than projected. And so let's go ahead and talk about the top of this draft. If we are to stick at 8, there are 4 players that I think are worth taking there, and Devine, Van Buren, and Freeman are all going ahead of the 8th pick, and I don't think anyone is worthy of a trade up, so we will not be taking any of these players in the upcoming draft. Plus, towards the end of the season, I feel like my outlook on Cohen is a lot better than it was for a majority of the season, so I'm actually just going to take Devine off of our draft board here, which of course resets the order. It's fine. This game's still a little bit buggy, which really means Ramon Gaffney is kind of the only option if we're to stick at 8. But do we take Gaffney? A lot of my plans heading into this draft were dependent on a trade down with our first pick. So if we do take Gaffney, who I think is very much so worthy of that 8th pick, it makes kind of the rest of my plan a little bit harder to execute, because there are 2 other players that I really like that are going to go in kind of the late 1, early 2 range. And that's Dalton Bullocks, and that's Glenn Webster. Now, Glenn Webster isn't insane as a prospect for sure, but he is a really, really good athlete. And honestly, I love my athletic offensive lineman. That's kind of like my guilty pleasure. Like, I will take an objectively worse player if he's a really athletic offensive lineman. And in 3 drafts, he's one of only 2 that have appeared in the entirety of these classes. So we're not getting very good luck in terms of finding athletic offensive linemen. This doesn't look great. Obviously, he's not very much of a finesse blocker, but he is currently projected to go in mock draft 5 at the 21st pick, despite, maybe not being the most ready now lineman, just because, of his elite size and athleticism. He's somebody that I would really like, particularly because apart from him, after him, there's another guy in round 1 to 2 who's going in the same range. I do not like offensive lineman down the board. There's only one other offensive lineman, and he's a center-only prospect who can really only pass protect. So if I want an offensive lineman, even though Webster is not, this excellent prospect, he's kind of our last option in the draft to get somebody that I feel confident being a starter. So I want him. And then Dalton Bullocks, we now know he's only a round 1 to 2 talent, so he's not this crazy overall, probably a 74, 73. But 6'5", 250 pounds, elite speed, great strength and acceleration, elite agility and change of direction, great jumping. Upper tier athlete, one of the best athletes you're going to see coming out of the draft in the entirety of this franchise series, with a run block, a awareness, a break tackle, a medium route. His short route's a little low, but I feel like short route's one of the easier things to upgrade with the tight end. I just really like him. He does have D injury. D is obviously not great, but it's miles better than F. And so I really like Dalton Bullocks. Now, I don't think there's a way we can get all 3 of these guys. I thought previously with maybe being able to trade from, 1 or 2 down to 17, which I thought was possible with a guy like Ramon Gaffney. I thought maybe there was a way we could pull off all these guys. Dalton Bullocks, by the way, in mock draft 5 is projected to go at the number 26th pick. So we're talking about, I was really kind of banking getting a trio of Gaffney, Bullocks, and Webster. I don't know if that trio is quite possible anymore. So let's talk some contingency plans. If we can't get Bullocks, who is there? There's Eric Bradham, who's another guy who's 250 pounds. He's 6'4", 22 years old. He's got elite strength and great speed and great acceleration. But even though that's only 1 tier down in the speed, you see that there's like a 20-point difference in the 40-yard dash. So I think these guys are probably like 3, maybe even 4 speed apart, which is really big. We don't know his run blocking, but his pass blocking is A, and then his run block is A to C, which makes me feel good. He's a better short route runner for sure, not as good of a medium route runner. Same catching. So I think Eric Bradham would be a really good tight end to get. And I'd be very happy to select a guy of Eric Bradham's caliber. But I do think there is a gap between Bradham and Bullocks in terms of, backup plans and offensive line. Like I said, there's only one. Brady Trout is the only guy after the first round that I like an offensive line in this entire class. It's not a deep class, and he is much, much worse. His strength and speed are only solid. His acceleration's above average at least. And even he's a pass protector, and we don't even actually know how good he is. I imagine a lot of those are A's or B's, but I don't mind taking a guy like Brady Trout, but with offensive line being a position that I actually want to improve quite a bit in this class, I don't think, coming away with only Brady Trout is enough of an upgrade, especially because center is probably my 3rd favorite offensive lineman, and he can only play center. I really need guards. So I think maybe I don't like feeling pigeonholed into taking a player in a draft, but I feel like if we don't take Glenn Webster in this class, I'm going to be really disappointed in the lack of upgrades along our offensive line. And then in terms of plan B's for defensive tackle, you've got Alex Rhodes. Now, Alex Rhodes, very, very intriguing player. 408 pounds. 408. So as you can imagine, he's got that elite strength. And as you can also imagine with a 400-pound player, he is terrible with his top speed. 25th among defensive tackles with his 40-yard dash, 5.35. But what is surprising is he does have really good initial bursts and get off with that acceleration, probably all that mass in his thighs, And so this is a player that I actually think is going to be really good. Now, the drawback from him compared to Gaffney is that we already have 2 kind of nose tackle players, right? We have Owens and we have Earl Clark, who are both already on the team, who are massive humans, who are a little bit slower. And so we kind of have the Alex Rhodes. Now, what Alex Rhodes offers different than them is that they are both, mostly block shedders, whereas Alex Rhodes has power moves. He does provide more pass rush upside out of the draft than Owens and Clark did. So he's not the same prospect as them. But what we're really missing in our interior defensive line room is speed. We have 2 nose tackles who aren't very fast. They're very, very strong. They're not very fast, which is why I really liked a guy like Ramon Gaffney, because he fixes that speed problem with his great speed and his elite acceleration. The problem is, as I stated at the top of this draft preview portion of this video, I can't really depend on a trade down to still select this player. So, my plan A from before I wrote it down during the season doesn't look like it's gonna be available for us. So what do we do in this class? Again, I've got a plan written down here. I'm not gonna spoil it for you. Let's go ahead. There are other positions that we'll talk about later in the draft, but in terms of what I'm doing with the first round is kind of what I wanted to preview. And let's go ahead and hop into this draft and figure out just what we do. And officially welcome in to the 2026 NFL Draft. The Saints kick off the action with the number 1 overall picked, and they will select edge rusher Braxton Sanborn out of LSU to help bolster up their pass rush, bringing up the Cleveland Browns, who decide to go and boost the opposite side of the trenches with Bobby Freeman out of Colorado. Next up, another offensive lineman. We've seen in the last couple of drafts, the trenches have been very heavily emphasized at the top of these classes. New England Patriots go another tackle, Junior Bonner, off the board out of South Carolina. This was a tackle class that I thought had some solid players at the top. I did think that it wasn't quite as good as you would want with so many players in the top 10 though. Marion Devine out of Colorado, of course, saw one of his pass protectors go off the board before him here. He will be going to the Bears. They are officially done with the Justin Fields experiment in Chicago. Another lineman here. It's been all quarterback and lineman through 6 picks here. Paul Dunbar out of USF goes to the Chargers. And then once again, yet another trench player here, Nate Gamble out of Wisconsin, going to the 49ers. Will the trend of quarterback and trench players continue here with our pick at 8? Well, I've kind of already stated my interest in selecting Gaffney if we are to pick at 8, but I do want to at least entertain what these trade down offers are. And of course, I'm not looking for only, I want a first round pick in this year. Not interested in anybody offering only first in future years, and there's just nothing here that really piques my interest. I don't like many of the offers we're really getting here, and so we will actually pick here at 8. I know Gaffney is not the best, most flawless player ever. He doesn't have a ton of A's, but the fact that he is so well-rounded, he's so young, he's so athletic, really makes me confident. And the fact that we already know he's one of the 5 best players in this class makes me confident that even with that F stamina, I think we have the depth defensively where, in the nickel package, if he's tired, we just bring in Earl Clark. I like Earl Clark. He played a ton for us last year, but I do think Ramon Gaffney will be an upgrade. And so with the 8th overall pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the London Black Knights will select Ramon Gaffney out of Washington. 95 strength, 74 speed, and 85 acceleration. Again, that's the kind of athleticism we've been missing in our interior defensive line, and I think this is the kind of player that can truly take us to the next level and help us become one of, if not the best defense within the next year or two in this franchise series. So we do decide to sacrifice maybe some depth in this class, some of our picks later. Of course, we're not going to be gaining any, extra picks for this year or next. And we were already out of 4th this year, so our pick value, we don't have a ton of depth. And we'll talk about it once we get there in a bit, but I don't think that's actually too much of a problem. Now, let's start to get through this draft. And what we did with this is we basically kind of said that between one of Webster and Bullock's, we're not going to take. Now, which one have I decided that we're not going to try to attain? That will be revealed here in just a moment, but it was a tough decision. I was really hoping for a long time in this draft process we could find a way to make all 3 work. It's just, it was never truly an option for us. So, as we get to pick 20 here, in the mock drafts, pick 21 is when Webster is projected to be taken. Again, our only shot at really getting an upgrade on the offensive line in this class, a position that we desperately need. And we will decide to not trade up, and we will be passing on the opportunity to really upgrade at the offensive line in this draft. And my thought process behind it ultimately was, even though I really wanted to do it, saying a guy is the only opportunity to upgrade at the position that we really need wasn't enough of, a selling point for me to be willing to pass on 2 players that I thought were just really superior to him and also in positions that I needed. And so unfortunately, that late game winning streak probably cost us the opportunity to upgrade our offensive line here in the offseason, which, it was really exciting in the moment. Looking back now, were those 3 wins worth not getting any good offensive linemen in this draft? I think it's tough. I truly do. I think there's certainly arguments to be made. Markel Walters is, I think, a really good pick there by the Bengals as a zone corner. So now here at the 24th overall pick, we know that Dalton Bullock's in mock draft 5 was projected to go at 26. I think this is the spot that I want to trade up for, though, if I could help it, because the mock draft kind of, it's not going to be 100% accurate ever since our pick, because our pick at 8 was actually Gaffney rather than what we were projected to take. And so I want to see what it would cost to trade up from 40 here to 24 with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And so we can get 2 of kind of our 3 targets here. And I think a 3, I'm going to try a 3 next year, and then our 6 and 7 this year. See if that's enough. To wet their whistle, it is not. I'm going to try the 5 and the 7. How close are we there? Pick 40 and then 5 this year as well, with a 3 and a 5 in future years. Close. So this trade would be pretty expensive. It would be our 2nd this year as well as our 2nd next year. We're kind of, in the last couple of drafts, we're starting to actually take away from future years rather than adding on to it, which is what I really wanted to do in this draft. But I think this will be accepted. It won't, but we're talking like this might push it over the edge, and it will. So the 40th pick, our 2nd next year, and then a 7th this year for the 24th overall pick, where we will be selecting Dalton Bullock's, the tight end out of Virginia Tech, an elite athlete. And I just feel like it's such a big upgrade for us at tight end. His ability to run block is what I think makes him worth the pick here and the trade up, giving up the extra value to get this player. I think he just fits what we want to do offensively. We know that this is an offense that at its core, at the end of the day, wants to run the ball as much as we can in a game. And getting a really good run blocking tight end helps. I mean, if you need evidence of that, look at the San Antonio Express franchise with Lewis Smart, who was an incredible run blocker, and he really helped spring that run game forward. And I think Dalton Bullock can do the same. About halfway through the season, a little bit more than that. Of course, we made the tight end switch on our own team because of injury. When Ramsey went down, we brought in Bonner, who wasn't nearly as good as Ramsey in a lot of ratings, but he did have that extra speed, and we saw just how just having a decent amount of speed at tight end can really unlock a lot of those routes and help you create separation. And so I think Dalton Bullock is going to help both the run and the pass game, and hopefully our offense can kind of catch up to the defense this year. And I think we saw positive signs again after we made that tight end switch of what a good tight end can help unlock for an offense. And so we're selecting Dalton Bullock's hidden development, 87 speed. So he's even like 3 speed more than we had from Bonner last year. So we're going to get really good speed out of the tight end spot, really good blocking. Short route running needs some help, but medium and deep is good. And D injury, not great. So we've drafted a guy with F, stamina, and D injury. This wasn't like some slam dunk. There's no doubt about it prospect in this entire draft, if you ask me. And so I think we're doing the best with what this draft had to offer. Of course, we'll see after the draft that was indeed the case. But we now no longer have a pick until the beginning of the third round. We'll manually go through here the rest of the first round, and then we'll kind of simulate to our pick to save some time. Deshaun Brown is a guy that I put on my board last minute. I think he's a pretty good deep threat going into the division, which I obviously don't love. You know, one of my favorite players in the draft going into our division. The Baltimore Ravens will close out the first round with Kevin Elliott out of Ohio State. And so now let's go ahead and just simulate to the top of the third and see kind of who is available. We've got a pick in 7 picks from now. Looking at our favorites board, you know, we could have got Eric Brown, and maybe, you know, we could have had a situation where we pick Webster and then we end up with, you know, Gaffney, Webster, and Bradham. That was a situation that I thought about for a very, very long time. At the end of the day, I just thought Bullocks was one of my favorite players in the entire class, and at some point you just got to go and get your guys. And that's kind of my theory behind, my thought process behind why I did what I did, even though I felt like tight end had the best consolation prize of any of the positions in this class. If we didn't get Bullock, just Bullocks is at the end of the day, I think, just that much better to be worth over the consolation prize. Now, there's a couple guys that I think could be really helpful. I don't think we're taking Bradham anymore, but I think Trout, Stewart, and Ross could all be valuable players for us. I don't think we're gonna get all of them, though. I think we can settle for 2. I think Trout, I want to at least get a swing at the bat at an offensive lineman. If he ends up not being good, that's fine. But I'd feel bad if we just didn't take any offensive lineman, because it is a position of pretty big need. In terms of where we're at, he's not projected to go for, oh goodness, more than a round. 49. He's the 49th available player, so we can definitely trade down from this spot. Maybe recoup an extra day 3 pick in this draft, ideally. And so let's simulate to our pick and now trade down from it. I'm thinking who's offering us a 3rd round pick plus, nobody's offering us a 3rd round pick plus another pick in this draft. I think this Vikings pick could make some sense. Let's see, pick 8 in the 3rd round is pick 72, so this is going down 17 spots, and then picking up a 4th for 2 years from now, which I think we could then flip for something in this draft. We have not been getting good trade offers that I like for these trade downs in this draft. So worth it to go about 17 spots down. Yeah, and this center's probably still like 40 or so spots down. Typically, if you want to be safe to get somebody, you want to be about 20 spots early. So I think we can take that Vikings offer, and then I'm gonna try to flip that future 4th. And hopefully getting back into this draft. Don't love this trade offer, but I think it's the best one that we got. So we'll be going down quite a bit now in this 3rd round. Hopefully not too much. And we'll see if I made a mistake. And I did not make a mistake. Brady Trout is on the board. He's going to be our 3rd pick. 21 years old. Center only size, unfortunately, just like maybe a slightly above average athlete, if even that. Has potential to be a really good pass protector. We'll see if he is. He is hitting depth. So we're 3 for 3 on the hitting depth. Solid. Yeah, again, not great athletically, which is at the end of the day what I really like. Like really good athletic offensive linemen unlock your run game a bit, and so we haven't been able to do that. Now, in this draft, I'd really like to come away with both of these players if we can. I think we got 4 picks in this draft. I'm going to simulate to the top of the 4th. And I'm just going to see what it would take to trade up here with the Saints. With the Saints, I don't really need that receiver, if I'm being honest. I'd like him. How close is this? Pretty close. Definitely want that corner, and that corner 2 7s. That is enough to trade up with the Saints. Our 5th and our 6th next year, then a 7th as well, and then a 7th 2 years from now. So we've only got 1 pick left in this draft. You know, going to be kind of the opposite of our first 2 drafts where we, traded down a ton and we got a bunch of extra draft capital so we can make 10 plus picks. The actual opposite. We're going to end up in this draft with making just, 5 picks. So luckily so far, I feel like they've been really good ones. I think Troy Stewart is going to add to that. Now, this is a guy I think can play corner for sure. He's got, a really good skill set for corner. I thought we did like the game patch. So an update came out between last episode and this one. Did it pass? Because I thought for sure we knew his press. I think they patched the draft classes and that might have shuffled what we knew about these players. Because I thought for sure we knew for 100% fact this guy had a press. I could be bugging though. But this is kind of the same build with Malik Vincent, and I think these are the specialty builds that have the high superstar dev chance and the high normal dev chance. So if this guy is hidden, I think he's got a good chance to maybe take over Vincent as kind of the guy who's gonna play safety for us, even though he's much more man. Or he could be a backup corner. At the end of the day, this is the 4th round. If we get a guy who's not really gonna be a starter, it's not that big of a deal. But I did think he was by far the best day 3 player in this class. And so he is hidden dev. He is hidden dev. We are now 4 for 4 on hidden development in this draft class. 91 speed. He's got 4 speed on Malik Vincent. His agility and change of direction is also much, much better. His acceleration, I think, is only 1 higher. But Troy Stewart is absolutely a better player than Malik Vincent, I think. So I'd say he probably is gonna find a way onto the field with that hidden depth and that, skill set that he already has. Now, we don't have a pick until the 7th round, and we need a punter, so we'll be scouting punter and making a pick based on who I think is the best when we get to that pick. But not gonna be this, crazy deep draft class. 5 players, one of them being a punter, but up until this point, we've got hidden development every time, and we think we've gotten guys that can play for us. That's at somewhere on the field every time as well. And here's the punter that we're going to be taking. He is 23 years old, but he's got A accuracy, C awareness, and great kick power. Welcome to the team. He is only net normal dev, so we don't get hidden dev all throughout. Would have been cool to get the hidden dev punter as well. But just looking at him, I didn't suspect him to be. I didn't even look at the kickers. Sometimes, I'll transition, but I don't like to, if I can help, taking a kicker and turning him into a punter, I try to avoid it as much as I can. So George Emerson was good enough, so he's going to be our punter next year. And that's going to do it for our draft. And so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a look at our players. I'm going to edit their faces, their gear, their numbers, and then we'll take a look at this draft class together. So here is the class, and we got 70 plus on everybody, so I think that's something to be happy about. Let's start with the guy we took with our top 10 pick. Ramon Gaffney ends up being 77 overall at defensive tackle. We will be moving him over to play left end or right end. I can't remember which one is the bad one. I think it's the left end though. And we see he's got 77 block shedding, 75 power moves, 68 finesse, and got that athleticism that we already talked about. His stamina is only at 76, which can present maybe some problems, but I think he is going to be a really good player for us regardless. And I think he's got the most pass rush upside of anybody that we've really selected on the interior here. So I'll move him to left end for now. Let's see what that does to his overall. Drops it down by 3. At the end of the day, it just makes his threshold to upgrade a little bit lower. He's still, just as good, even though his overall has dropped. Dalton Bullocks here. 87 speed. He's got 81 catching, 67 run block. That short route was only at 66. Medium route is 67. It's weird to... he had C short route and A medium route, and that's literally just a difference of 1. But 76 catch in traffic and 78 spec catch, 71 break tackle. Injury is at 82, not great, but I think you can live with that. And he's gonna be the starting tight end. I don't think that's even much of a debate. Brady Trout ends up being 72 overall, so he was a really good pass protector, especially with the finesse. Obviously, he needs to work on his run blocking, but I think he can start at center, and then maybe we can have the guy that we've had at center, Edwards, maybe slide over to left guard. He'd be a little bit small for left guard, but he's the same height, and he has like 20 pounds on Trout, so I think he'd be a better fit for guard. Just a slightly undersized one, but I don't think it would be like too big of a problem. Now, Troy Stewart here, 73 overall at corner. Got 80 man and 80 press. Zone coverage is, obviously not his strong suit. He can't catch either. But I think this is the guy that's going to be competing with the kind of the corner that we drafted last year in the later rounds for that free safety spot. And so he goes down to 70 at free safety. And then we got a 72 overall punter, George Emerson. He's going to punt for us. 95 power, 80 accuracy. I think is a really good starting point for him. So let's shift gears now and go from talking about our draft to what the league did in general. The number 1 overall pick was Braxton Sanborn. He's a 76 overall hidden depth player with 79 finesse moves. Let's see if they got star or if they managed to get higher than that with this pick. He is an X factor. Okay. I think if you're a Saints fan, you got to be happy with what they did there. Marion Devine ends up being a 74 overall scrambler archetype. Got 93 throw power. Very good there. He's very good in the short area of the field. Deep in medium, I think needs some work, but very good in the acceleration. Doesn't have the top speed. I think definitely has a chance to be a good quarterback in this league. And then anyone else notable? We got a 77 Joe Leonard here, went at 10. 23 years old, playmaking archetype. Got good short to medium route running off rip. 96 spec catch. For a playmaker, his run after the catch stuff isn't great, but I think that's a really good receiver prospect. Let's take a look at the highest overalls in this class. So Dwayne Hargrove, 78 overall zone guy. He was picked at the end of the second round. Wow, this guy would have been a sick pick at safety. Of course, in order to draft him, we would have had to given up one of Bullock's or Gaffney, which I don't think we would have done. This guy would be a sick guy to convert to safety. Also, just if you're a zone heavy scheme offensively. Trying to think of, was he one of the 2 corners that we had on our board to play safety? I think he was, right? I think we had 2 zone heavy corners, and I know one of them was Walters. I think he was the other, or was it Skandrick? Might have been It was Skandrick. Another guy with 82 zone coverage, 72 man, 72 press. This Skandrick was the other guy. It was Skandrick and Walters that we had as the corners that we thought could convert to safety. Both have normal dev though. Really good middle linebacker prospect. There's been some good middle linebackers coming out of the draft. He's not hidden dev or anything, but I think he's a good player for the Seahawks. And he was picked in the 3rd round. I didn't even look at middle linebacker this year because I wasn't going to take it. I think we have the best middle linebacker tandem in the league. Carl Stackhouse, he was somebody that I liked to potentially play safety if we were going to spend an early pick on that position. Just decided pretty early on in the process that I wasn't going to. So ends up going to the Jaguars at pick 40, and he's superstar dev. Good safety. I want to see a couple of players here. The first guy I want to see is Glenn Webster. The 72 overall power archetype, 90 strength, 72 speed, 82 acceleration. His blocking isn't great though. Lead block and impact block are both really good. I mean, he would have been our best interior lineman. If he's superstar, that's going to really hurt passing on him. If he's star, which he is, I think it's still a solid decision by us to do what we did. Matt Bowman, I think he was on our board as well as our second defensive tackle on the board. He's pretty dang good. Pretty dang good. And development as well. So overall, I think a solid draft class. I do want to see Deshaun Brown. Normal dev, but he is 76 overall. Excellent deep route runner. Honestly, not bad at the other route runnings either. And he's going to a really good offense, so I think his chance for dev ups will be pretty high in his career. But Russ Bates was another guy I had on my board. He's in dev 72 overall, much like we just saw with Webster, but I think Webster was definitely the better player. He is 6'8" though. Star dev as well. And so I think we did well. I think we did about as good as we could have with the situation that was handed to us. As fun as that 3-game win streak in our last episode was, I think it did hurt our draft here a little bit today, but I think it was worth it. I think we still did about as good as we could have expected to. I don't know if there's anyone else that I'm missing that I feel like I really want to hit. So we're going to go ahead now and take a look at the rest of our division. Starting here with the Cowboys, we saw Brown. He's a normal dev. They also got Mitch Morton as a late hidden dev off-ball linebacker. That's going to be a really good pick for them. Yes, a star dev, 72 overall, athletic off-ball linebacker in the 3rd round. Good job by them. Eagles did not have a 1st-round pick. They did not improve their team at all this year. They did just go to the Super Bowl though, so I guess you can excuse them a bit. And they also, like I said, didn't have their 1st-round pick. The Giants got a left tackle. I think they've selected tackle each of the last 2 years, despite starting this franchise with Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. What is this team doing? There's a reason the Giants have not been at the top of this division in a while. You guys don't draft very well. So not a very strong draft overall for the division. We just didn't have as many picks. I think our picks were good. There just weren't as many. Remember that Ramon Gaffney was drafted as a 77 defensive tackle, which he's basically playing defensive tackle. He's not playing edge ever. So I think we got better. I think we got kind of maybe the missing piece for our defense to become elite. I think we got a significant upgrade at probably the position we needed the upgrade at the most in this draft. we got an offensive lineman that will play, and I think makes our offensive line better. And we got another defensive back that can challenge for a free safety spot. And then, you know, we just fill the need at punter. But that is going to be it for this off-season episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you're excited for season 3 as I am, because I am very excited to see if we can build off the momentum of our late season surge of last year. And next year will be starting soon. And I will see you then.